I think we are live. Hello, how's it going? Test, test, one, two, three. Hopefully, this is coming through loud and clear and you can hear me and see me. Hey, how's it going there? Lee Hayward with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for Friday, Black Friday, November 25th. So, again, hopefully, this is coming through loud and clear on the different platforms. So we're using a new service here now for streaming these regular live video chats. So it should be coming through both simultaneously on YouTube, which we normally do and have been for years, and also on the Facebook platform. So let me see if this is coming through loud and clear, and hopefully it is. Good stuff. I think it is. Everything seems to be working fine on my end. And for those of you who are tuning in live right now, please let me know. Just give me a little heads up there in the comment section next to the live video stream in the chat box if this is coming through loud and clear and if you can hear me and see me. So we have Mamone, I believe it is. If I'm mispronouncing your name, I do apologize, but coming through. Hey, how's it going? Just quick little check now while we're waiting for a few people to pop on the chat here. Is this coming through loud and clear? Dan's joining in. Welcome, Dan. Lee's joining in. Jesse, Orville, Dave. Awesome. Good stuff. All right. So just want to give you a little overview of how these video chats work. I know we have a lot of regulars who tune into these chats every week. But if you are new to these video chats, the way it works is I'm going to be hanging out here for the next little while, answering questions and topics of discussion that you may have related to fitness and nutrition, anything that you want to discuss with regards to your workouts, with your nutrition plan. Maybe you got some specific challenges when it comes to building muscle or losing fat. Maybe you want to discuss things around injuries or whatever. Feel free to type any of those questions or topics of discussion into the video chat, anything fitness and nutrition related, and I'll do the best that I can to help you out over the course of our chat today. So for those of you who've been following along, especially over on Facebook, you notice that this week we've been hyping up the whole Black Friday promo, right? And everybody's hyping up Black Friday, right? I mean, it's just the way it is these days. Everywhere you look, it's Black Friday, Black Friday. But we actually do have a legitimate Black Friday promotion going on here, because I know a lot of people, you see these silly old Facebook memes, right? You know, like the TV is regularly $8.99, right? Hold $8.99, $8.99, $8.99. Then all of a sudden they say, well, it's the regular price is, $12.99 crossed off, and then it's listed as Black Friday special, $8.99, which is the same price it's always been. And then everybody, yeah, Black Friday. Well, we actually do have a legitimate Black Friday special going on over at the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program. And the way it is we're literally doubling the program, right? So for anybody who wants to come on board during this Black Friday promo, you sign up for a month, you get 2 months. You sign up for 6 months, you get 12 months. If you want to sign up for a year, you can literally get 2 years. So we're literally doubling the program package or whatever you decide to go with. And we actually did this similar type of promotion last year as well. And a lot of new people came on board, and a lot of amazing before and after success stories came about from that program as well. So if you're looking to get a head start on the whole fitness journey now for getting in your best shape in 2023, and you want to take advantage of it and have a legitimate Black Friday promotion savings in the process, feel free to reach out to me. I have some more information about it over on my Facebook page, or you can head on over to my blog at leehayward.com. There's a post about it there as well. But all you got to do is send me an email, lee@leehayward.com. Drop me an email, and I'll forward you all the details. So just send me an email with the words Black Friday, or if you're following me over on Facebook, you can private message me, and I will forward you all the details about how you can get started with that if that's something that you are interested in. Because the way the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program works, it's by application only, right? It's not just a program for anybody, because I want to first off make sure that it's actually a good fit for you and a good fit for me, and that you are potentially what we can use for creating a before and after success story in 2023. And if it's not a good fit, I mean, I'm not going to BS you or waste your time or anything like that. I'm only interested in working with people who I honestly feel can become before and after success stories. And that's the whole purpose of it. So again, if you want more information about the Muscle After 40 Blueprint, head on over to my website or my Facebook page, and we can chat about it. All right. With that being said, we got a lot of people tuning in right now, which is awesome. So got myself a little energy drink. I've been busy all day. I've been busy. So I'm getting a little energy drink, a sugar-free Monster. I drink these on occasion because I enjoy them, and It's a little bit of caffeine. So I need to be caffeinated and motivated in order to provide a good video chat for you. All right. Let's lay that back there. Caffeinated and motivated. That's how you get shit done. All right. So jumping in, let's see who we have. Moses is joining in, seeing everything's come through loud and clear. Thank you. Dan and Lee Dunnigan, Jesse and Orville and Dave. What else we got there? I'm getting this. Can you say my name another time? And I think it's Mamone. And again, there's got little accents over the A and accents over the U and stuff. Mamone, I'm thinking that's how I pronounce your name. I could be butchering it. I see a laughy smiley face there, so obviously I'm butchering your name, but I'm going to answer your question anyway. The question is about whey protein versus a mass protein. Let me pop that up there so you can see what I'm talking about. How would you say that? Is it Mamone? Mamone? I think it is. Again, me being my, English speaking, say it like it spells type of person, I'm sure I'm butchering your name, but I'm going to answer your question about protein versus mass gainer, mass protein, which is aka weight gainer. And the only difference here, protein powder is basically pure protein. So it's some sort of protein powder, meaning usually it's a whey protein, but you can get other types of protein, right? I mean, you can get an egg protein, you can get a vegetable-based protein like a soy protein or a pea protein or whatever. There's all kinds of different protein. You can get egg. You can even get beef protein, milk protein. What else? A gazillion types of protein. But the most common one by far in the bodybuilding and fitness world is whey protein. And for good reason. Whey protein is a very high-quality protein. Has all the essential amino acids. And it generally tastes good, mixes good. Right? It's a good protein. That's what I use personally. I use a whey protein. And then we have weight gainers or mass gainers, which is basically protein and carbohydrates and fat. Now, I'm not a huge fan of most weight gainers because a lot of times you're getting a lot of sugar, you're getting a lot of extra calories, and very often they're not the best quality calories. Now, I'm not saying, I'm kind of using this as a general blanket statement, if you will, because I'm sure there are some good ones out there. But for the most part, for the average person who's looking to build muscle and lose body fat, you don't need to be supplementing with extra carbohydrates and fats. Usually those are the easy things to consume. Right? Most people have no trouble getting enough carbohydrates and fats in their diet. In fact, we usually have to go the opposite way, especially if your goal is to kind of get leaner and trim off some of that body fat. You want to reduce some of those extra carbohydrates and fats and bump up your protein. So having a pure protein powder is more advantageous for most people, especially if body recomposition is one of your primary goals. However, with that being said, there are some situations where supplementing with carbohydrates can be beneficial, especially when you're getting into like long distance endurance training or somewhere where you're burning a lot of calories, right? If you're burning a lot of calories and you need fast absorbing, easy absorbing nutrition, then something along the lines of some sort of carbohydrate powder supplement, which can include weight gainers, because again, depending on the type of weight gainer it is, might fit the bill here. But it's the exception and not the rule for most people who are interested in improving their body composition. But that's basically the difference. You got pure protein, or you got a whole meal replacement of protein, carbohydrates, and fat. And very often the ratios, there's probably like twice as much carbohydrates as there is protein in a typical a weight gainer supplement. And then in some cases, the ratios may be way off. It might be primarily carbohydrates, maybe even as much as like 80% carbohydrates, maybe only 20% protein, something like that, along with extra fat in there as well. Again, you really need to look at the nutrition labels. The easiest way, look at the labels and compare the numbers for yourself, because it's a very broad category, right? There's not always a set guideline for what counts as a weight gainer, mass gainer. You really got to look at the nutrition label and decipher for yourself. But personally, I don't use them. I don't even bother them. I don't recommend them to my coaching students, especially the ones who are trying to lose body fat. We just go with protein powder. Now, with that being said, I'll just throw a little bonus out there as well. You have three basic types of protein. You have a protein isolate, you have a protein concentrate, and then you usually have a protein blend, which is a half and half of an isolate and a concentrate. Isolate is all it's basically isolated protein. So in the case of a whey protein, it's got the lactose removed, it's got most of the fat removed, and you basically have 90% pure protein powder. So 9 out of 10 grams is actual protein. So if you had 10 grams of powder, 9 of those grams is pure protein, and the rest is just, the trace amounts of fat and lactose that's remaining within the powder, but it's isolated. The concentrate is about 70% protein. Still has a bit more fat and lactose in there because it's not as isolated. And then the blend is a 50-50, which is usually around 80% protein. Now, the benefits, if you are lactose intolerant or have sensitive digestion issues, you might want to go with the isolate because it's probably easier on the stomach, but it's also pricier. If you don't have any digestion issues, then you might be able to get away with a concentrate or a blend. I personally use a blend, and I find that it tastes really good, and I find that it's a good value overall. So that's one I find. I get mine. It's like, again, there's a gazillion protein powders. I'm not sponsored by any protein powder company or anything else, but I just throw it out there because a lot of people ask, well, what's your favorite protein powder? I'm using one from CanadianProtein.com, and it's their private label one. It's their Whey blend that they have, and I find that it's really tasty, mixes good, and I just enjoy it. So that's where I get mine from. But I've used a lot of other brands, and most of the reputable name brands are equally as good. It really comes down to personal preference as far as taste and flavoring, stuff like that. So hopefully that covers your protein question, Mamon. I think I'm saying your name right. And he says, can you say my name another time? All right, Dad Physique. How goes? Mine goes good. How goes you, Mr. Dad Physique? Right? Is that Dad Physique good or Dad Physique bad? Because usually when people say they got a Dad Physique, i.e. dad bod, they're not saying it in a flattering fashion, right? It's usually, hey, I got a dad bod and I want to get rid of it, aka a dad bod transformation, right? Which is a Facebook group that I participate on. If you're not a member of it, you might want to go check it out. It's the Dad Bod Transformation group over on Facebook. It's a massive group. AJ joining in says, how hard did you find getting stronger and lifting heavier while not eating at a calorie surplus? Did you gain strength at maintenance and even on a calorie deficit? Good question. I actually had somebody else send me a question kind of related to this topic, so I can kind of piggyback the two of these together. When you are eating more, you're going to feel stronger. When you're eating less, you typically don't have as much strength and energy. And that what you'll find is, ideally, we want to eat for our activity levels. Like in the ideal situation, you would eat based on your activity level. So, I mean, if you're going to be doing a high intensity workout, you want to fuel that workout so that you have the energy in your system, your glycogen levels are topped up, and that you can power through that workout. However, if you're training for fat loss and you're in a calorie deficit, most of the time you're not going to have full glycogen stores. So you're going to be, in that deficit. You're going to be less than full, less than optimal, and you're not going to have as much strength and energy for those workouts. And you will very often find that your peak strength output very often suffers because of that. Doesn't mean that you can't train. It doesn't mean that you can't make progress, but it just means you're probably not going to be at your 100% best because you're training in a deficit. But once you get adapted to that and used to it, you can actually start to make progress and kind of get used to training in a deficit. So generally speaking, like I'll use the example of getting ready for a bodybuilding competition, because this is a prime guideline for being in a calorie deficit, and you can really track the variables effectively, because in the case of a competitive bodybuilder or physique athlete or someone who's very disciplined and structured, the variables are consistent, and it's easy to see how the body responds to different situations. Whereas when you're dealing with average Joes, life gets in the way, right? I mean, very often, for example, like when I'm talking to a lot of my coaching students who are just a lot of regular guys, family men, working professionals, guys who are, trying to lose the gut and get in shape, the common question, the common themes that I hear over and over again is, well, I had a good month last month, but I fell off the rails this month. Or, I got busy at work. I was working overtime and I didn't get to the gym this week. Or, hey, Thanksgiving was yesterday and I blew the diet. right? There's always this on and off theme. And we're always trying to come back to strategies to get them back on track again. So the way that I like to look at myself when I'm coaching people is I'm like Google Maps with guardrails. So I'm there to guide you in the right direction, and I'm going to provide the guardrails to prevent you from going off the road either way. And then we're going to steer you towards the path of your goal. But it's always going to be like readjusting, rerouting, and hitting a detour, hitting a roadblock, and getting you back on track again. But in the case of competitive bodybuilders and athletes who are focused for the short term, it's really effective for seeing how the body changes to different variables, because when you get a serious athlete, they're focused. There's no on and off again. It's just like the blinders are on. It's a one-way street. They're going to head in that direction no matter what. So it's really good for monitoring results that way. And I always found in myself and a lot of the people that I've coached through bodybuilding, you would see in the first phase, when we initially cut back calories and we go from surplus or maintenance, wherever you're to deficit, in that initial transition, your strength and energy levels will drop off, right? You will see your numbers in the gym going down. But then after about a month or maybe 6 weeks or so, you start to get used to being in a deficit. And your body starts to become more efficient at utilizing its stored body fats to kind of overcome some of that energy deficit. So now you're starting to make up some of those energy reserve or energy lack that you're getting from food, from body fat. And you can actually get some decent workouts once you're like in the middle of a contest prep phase. So you can actually make some good progress. Now, again, it's not peak strength. Like if you're looking at your 1 rep max bench press, okay, chances are that's going down, and it's not going to be, you're not going to be hitting any PRs in that area for most people. But in strength in other areas, you probably actually see some progress. Like maybe your strength for repetitions will go up. Like I see a lot of times people will be able to do more push-ups or more pull-ups or more dips or body weight exercises. A lot of times their repetitions will go up. A lot of times their stamina goes up, because as you drop some body fat, now you're very often more efficient, especially when it comes to other types of exercises. So sometimes you'll actually see your strength improve in certain areas, but your peak power output, again, that 1 rep max, bench, squat, deadlift, or whatever, very often that goes down, but you may see some progress in other areas. And very often your efficiency goes up as well. So your repetitions in general, like you may be able to rep out more reps, more sets, and get more volume done. You can usually hold on to that for a while, until your body fat starts to dip into the single digits. Like once you start to get so lean and you're starting to really deplete yourself, then you'll see it drop off again. And for me, it was always like a curve. So I'd start off, see that initial dip, then I'd sustain it and be able to make some good workouts for a little while in the middle. And then probably for the last 6 weeks before competition, my strength would just fall off the rails again. It's because now you're transitioning from lean to ripped, and you're getting even further depleted, and very often there's a deeper calorie deficit. And at that stage, it's basically just running on willpower. It really is. You're just running on willpower, and strength and energy is basically down the toilet at that stage. And it's just part of the process. But again, you got to look at what it is we're focusing on. We're not trying to set records in terms of strength and athletic performance. We're trying to maximize fat burning at that stage. So you got to make some compromises for the overall goal that you're shooting for. And vice versa, if your goal was strength, let's say you wanted to compete in powerlifting or strongman or something along those lines, they do the complete opposite, right? Because in their goal is to be as strong as possible. So if they lose their abdominal definition in order to eat more and gain more mass and more strength so that they can perform better and hit those peak numbers, they'll do it. That's why when you look at see world's strongest man competitors, or you look at a lot of elite level powerlifters and stuff, very rare are those guys walking around with shredded 6-pack abs, right? They're usually got a little bit of extra meat on their bones, a little bit of padding, because that calorie surplus and that little extra bit of padding actually helps to increase their max power output and increase their max strength. So I'm not saying that it's right or wrong either way. It's just, what's your goal? What are you training for? And you have to eat according to that and adjust the training appropriately. So that's very common. Like that happens, in all sports and activities. So you basically just got to manipulate it based on what it is you're trying to achieve. All right. Give myself another little caffeine shot here. Anybody else feeling caffeinated and motivated? I know it's Friday night for some people, or Friday, or Saturday morning, depending on where it is in the world you are. What are you drinking on a Friday night? I'm drinking a sugar-free energy drink to keep awake for this. Right? I'm sure some of you are probably drinking something stronger. Let's see. We got Mark joining in. It says, I've been working out for a number of years, doing a range of workouts, hypertrophy and strength-based. My arms have plateaued. Any tips on busting through the plateau? I can appreciate that, Mark, because I genetically have stubborn arms. My arms have always lagged behind the rest of my body in terms of development. Like, even in my early days of working out, I could see my legs responding. I could see my chest responding. I could see my back responding. Like, I see all those body parts responding, and my arms were just like, I called it the spaghetti noodle arm syndrome. It's just like, for whatever reason, I just genetically don't have big arms, right? And I never did. I still don't. I mean, but I've worked hard to improve them and to make it less obvious of a defect, if you will. So I really had to prioritize arm training. And I actually literally wrote the book on it several years back. If you go to blastyourbiceps.com, that was an ebook that I wrote. And it was basically sharing my own experience of how I helped to balance out my arm development, or at least turn shitty arms into okay arms. Put it that way, right? Because when I started off, again, I had really skinny arms, but I actually built them up so it's not such a glaring flaw. You know, I mean, they're still not as developed as the rest of my body in terms of like legs and chest and back, but they're okay, right? They're okay. But how I did it is I had to prioritize arm training. So the simple solution there was doubling up the frequency for my arm workouts while simultaneously taking my stronger body parts and putting them on a maintenance program. So the Blast Your Biceps plan, to kind of, summarize how it works real quickly, is you take your stronger muscle groups, so whatever that is. In my case, it was the chest and the back and the legs. Those body parts, trained them once a week. The arms, biceps and triceps and forearms, train those twice a week. And I would do 2 different workouts for those twice a week workouts. So one would be a higher repetition, higher volume. One would be a lower repetition, focusing on more strength and power moves. So it was getting both sides of the spectrum. One is more of a muscular endurance pumping workout. One's more of a power strength-based workout. And I found that the combination of alternating those back and forth really helped spur on some unique muscle growth. And that helped to allow my arms to catch up to my other body parts, because I was training them at maintenance. So it wasn't prioritizing them. And the idea behind backing off on your stronger body parts is not only to give your arms more attention, but it's to allow a better distribution of your recovery abilities, because you just can't train everything 100%. You can't prioritize all your body parts and expect to make progress that way. Like, if you're going to focus extra on one thing, you got to back off in another area. And you got to view it like let's say we got 100% recovery. Like, it's not like we have 100% recovery for arms and 100% recovery for chest and 100% for legs and 100% for back. You got 100% total that you're going to divvy up amongst all your muscle groups, all the things that you want to focus on. How are you going to allocate that recovery ability and still make progress? So I was allocating the majority of my recovery ability to my arms, probably say, I'm just theoretically throwing out some numbers here. I mean, this is not like it's a scientific measurement here, but just use it for a theoretical example. Say 40% of my recovery was going towards arm training. Maybe 20% recovery was going towards, well, it's not exactly right, but chest, and then 20% going towards back, and then 20% going towards legs, right? So that's how I would get my overall. So I was getting less of my energy reserves were going towards the stronger body parts, but the majority of my energy reserves were going towards the weaker body parts. And that's how I prioritized it. And I found that by doing that and consistently doing that for several months, it actually helped to balance them out. And that was a program that I used I mean, I kept going back to that style of training over and over throughout my years as a competitive bodybuilder, especially in the off season when I was eating higher calories and able to utilize those calories for muscle growth and recovery to make some better gains. But that was a strategy that I used. So if you're interested in checking it out, you can actually head on over to blastyourbiceps.com and get a copy of that. It's a digital ebook course, still available. I mean, even though it's, oh my God, it's over a decade old now, the principles in there still work just as well today as they did 10 plus years ago, right? So if you're interested, you can certainly check that out. What else we got there? Let's see. Ray is joining in. Hello, Ray. How do you do? I do fine. Hopefully you're doing good too. We have C. Rob Jones, and he's asking, how do you get through the mental side of fitness? I've been a bigger guy for most of my life, and sometimes I have those days where my mind wants to revert back to my older self. I'm glad you brought that up. This is powerful. This is powerful. And I'm actually going through a certification program now that really focuses mostly on the inner game and mental side of fitness and nutrition. And this is where I feel it's the next level, because let's face it, there's enough tactics already out there. Like, nobody is struggling with their fitness because they don't know what to do in terms of, I don't know what exercises to do, or I don't know what foods to eat, or I don't know, how to count calories, or like, if you don't know it now, it's a Google search away. Like, literally everything that you want to know related to fitness and nutrition, as far as like the tactics, is already out there. Like, there's a YouTube video out there showing how to work out. Like, every exercise that you can think of, there's bound to be a YouTube video showing how to do it, right? There's a gazillion YouTube videos, and they all have a gazillion workouts and programs. So anyone says, I don't know how to work out, like, you could YouTube it and you could get a workout in a matter of seconds. These people say, I don't know what to eat. You can Google search, diet plans, and boom, you get a gazillion different diet plans, right? So there's no shortage of diet plans out there. You say, I don't know how to count my calories. You can download a calorie tracker. You can get a MyFitnessPal account or whatever. There's a gazillion diet trackers these days, and you can Google search how to use it, how to count calories, how to track macros. Boom, it's all there. So the tactics are there, and they've been there for years. Literally, like, if you've been struggling with your weight for years, it's not because you didn't know what to do or didn't have the information available. It's there. It's a mental struggle. It really is. The thing is how do you take that tactical stuff and actually apply it to yourself, to you, your situation, your lifestyle, and then do so while actually enjoying the process and not feeling like it's a chore or a burden, or feeling like you're forced to do it, or just flat out doing something that you don't like doing. Like, how do you reprogram that and make it an enjoyable part of your lifestyle, where it's part of your identity, and it's an effortless, I won't say effortless, but it's an enjoyable part of your identity, and it's something that you actually look forward to versus something that you dread, right? That's what it is. So fitness and struggling with any related health and fitness issues, it's very rarely a physical issue. It's mostly a mental issue. There's some mental blocks going on there. And this is something that's going to be unique for everybody, right? I wish there was a one size fits all answer. Say, well, everybody has the same problem, but it's not as simple as that. Right? It's not. And everyone's got their own unique challenges and struggles and issues that they got to go through. And you really need to kind of like work through that. And to help me get a better grasp on this, not just for myself, but to help my coaching students as well, I'm actually doing, it's called a Master Health Certification through Precision Nutrition. It's their level 2 Master Health Certification. And it doesn't touch calories, macros, exercises, or none of that stuff. Like, we've already got that mastered. Like, that's the easy stuff, the how-to. It's taking it to the next level and focusing on the mindset and the inner game side. How do you utilize all the how-to information that we already have and actually apply it into a real-world situation and change a person's identity so that they actually enjoy it? And it's a very deep process. Again, it's not a flick the switch, here it's done. And that's what we focus on within the whole Muscle After 40 blueprint, right? Is not just giving you more tactics and strategies, but actually showing you how to utilize those tactics and strategies and enjoy the process so that you don't feel like you're suffering it out. And it's really an identity shift. And to kind of give you an idea of what I mean by an identity shift, I'm going to share an example. I've used this before, so some of you are regulars probably heard me say this, but it's a powerful one, and I like to use it because it helps to emphasize the point. Think of a smoker. Right. First off, if anybody is a smoker and you're having a hard time quitting, is it because you don't know how to quit? Of course not. Like, quitting smoking is the easiest thing in the world. The tactics of quitting smoking is stop putting cigarettes in your mouth. That's it. If you stop putting cigarettes in your mouth, you will be a non-smoker, and that's it. Like, you don't even need to do anything. You just have to stop doing what you've been doing all along. Like, stop putting a cigarette in your mouth and you will be a non-smoker. Right. And this would apply with any other, habit addictions like drinking alcohol or recreational drugs or whatever. If you just stop consuming it, then you're free. Right. That's simple as that. Like, the tactics are so simple. So, like, telling someone to get in shape by eating right and exercise is like telling a smoker to quit smoking by just stop putting cigarettes in your mouth. Like, of course they know what to do. Right. It's just, how do they do it? Because their identity is linked to it. And it's a habit that they've ingrained, and they've come to rely on it. So we kind of have to shift it at the identity level. And another example that I like to use, again, using the smoking analogy here, if I had a cigarette and I offered it to one person and they say, no, thanks, I'm a non-smoker. And I take that same cigarette and offer it to somebody else and they say, well, I'm trying to quit. Like, both people are refusing it in the moment, but who has their identity shifted to where they're refusing it for the long term, right? The person who identifies as a non-smoker, whereas the person I'm a smoker who's trying to quit, I'm saying no right now, but in a moment of weakness, I'll grab that cigarette and I'd light it up. We see the same thing in fitness and nutrition. Most of us don't see ourselves as a lean, healthy, fit individual. Like, we don't see ourselves as that person, or at least on our way to becoming that person. We still see ourselves as a fat, out of shape person who's trying to lose weight, right? We're less like a smoker who's trying to quit. Like, we still see ourselves as the old version of ourselves, the person that we don't want to be. That's who we still identify with. So you need to learn how to change that identity at your core and accept the new identity of who you want to become. And again, I'm just explaining the surface level, like scratching the surface. But this is a very deep process, and this is where the challenges become. But rest assured, once you get to the root of this and actually uncover these mental blocks and these issues that you're dealing with and start to change that identity, and it's not an instant change. It's not like a light switch. It's not flicking it on or off. This is something that you got to work on. Right? This is an evolving process, and it has to be reinforced. But once you make that identity shift and then you reinforce it with positive habits, and then you start to see the results in real time, and then it just continues to reinforce and build, that's when you start to see a sustainable life change, and not just going on another diet, right? Drop a few pounds only to put a few pounds back on and more again, like, which was what most people do. So, I mean, I can relate to where you're coming from with that, Rob, because it's not just physical. It's a mental issue. It really is. It's almost like psychology is just as much as the actual fitness and nutrition. All right, who else we got there? David joining us. What are my thoughts on push-pull legs? Great. Any workout program that you can follow consistently and in a progressive overload fashion can produce results. I mean, I've utilized push-pull legs, and it's a great program to follow. Like, a lot of people have utilized it. I've utilized it. And the thing I like about it is you're pairing up complementary muscle groups. So all your pushing muscle groups, generally your chest, your shoulders, your triceps, you're putting there on push day. All your pulling muscle groups, your back, your biceps, and your pulling moves, you're pairing that up on pull day. And of course, your lower body, you're doing that on the leg day. So it's the ideal split. Like, if you're going to get into body part splits, that's one of the best ways to do it, is to utilize that. Is it perfect, or is it for everybody? No, because it depends on the situation and what it is you're trying to train for. Kind of like going back several questions where we had I can't remember who it was now, but somebody earlier was talking about prioritizing that their arm development. If that's a major goal, then you might want to dedicate, an arm day. So that would kind of throw off the whole push-pull leg split. But you can still utilize a push-pull leg split and make great progress with it. I've done it, and I know a lot of people have as well. And I have several of my personal coaching students who are currently doing push-pull leg splits. So depending on where you are in your fitness journey, it may be a great program to follow. But again, think of it as it's another tool in the toolbox, right? It's almost like saying, what do you think of a hammer? Like, aren't hammers wonderful? Wow, these hammers are amazing. And yeah, hammers are amazing. They can do great things. But what if I want to cut a piece of wood, right? I want to saw off a board. I mean, the hammer's not the right tool for the job in that situation, right? I need a saw. So, not knocking the hammer. The hammer still works great, but in a certain situation, it ain't going to get the job done, right? So think of all these different things like, what do you think of this one? Or what do you think of that one? It's just another tool in the toolbox, right? It can apply in a certain situation for a certain job, but it's not the end all be all, right? Thankfully, we have a lot of tools in our toolbox and we can utilize them as needed. All righty, moving on. What else we got there? Let's see. And Mamone is thanking me for the information. Am I saying your name right? Or am I butchering? Like, I wish there was, a way to, you could, I hate it when I get people's names wrong. That's one thing that's a little pet peeve of mine. But anyway, moving on. Who else we got there? We have, no question. All right. I don't know if there was supposed to be a question come through in that one, but if you do have Gokin, again, that's probably another name I'm butchering, but I'm not sure if there was supposed to be a question coming with that or not, but if there is, feel free to retype it and I'll see if I can help. John, Eagle Eye John, not just any John, we have an Eagle Eye John. He says, how many weeks does it take to progressive overload for size? This is never ending. You always want to be training in some sort of progressive overload fashion. I mean, it's not always going to be all nonstop progressive. There's going to be ups and downs, but we want to see the trend moving in the right direction. Almost visualize progressive overload and your progress like the stock market. If you've ever watched the stock market, or if you do follow the stock market yourself, it's ups and downs and dips and spikes and lows and whatever. Like it's never just a linear curve. It's never just a straight shot, from zero to hero. There's always ups and downs along the way. And your strength and your fitness is going to follow a similar ups and downs, right? You might do something for a while, see some really good progress and get a spike. And then something happens and you get a little low. And then you get back on track again and you get another spike. And then whatever, it could be ups and downs. And it's always going to be ups and downs, but we want to have more ups than downs so that you're gradually over time getting stronger and bigger and making progress towards your goals. That's the way you want to focus on it. So it's a never ending process, right? You always want to be striving for some form of progressive overload. Now, I want to break that down a little bit too, because some people take this too literally and actually do more harm than good, because they think, well, I got to train for progressive overload. So I always got to try and lift heavier. I always got to try to get an extra rep. I always got to try and push for more. I always got to try to gain more weight or lose more fat or whatever your goal is. Like, I always trying for more. And you can't force yourself, right? You can only nurture yourself to grow and progress, but you can't force yourself to grow and progress. So all you can do when it comes to fitness, nutrition, you can work out consistently, right? You can go into the gym and you can stimulate the muscles with the right exercises and then let your body rest, recover, grow. So you can take care of that element. You can then follow it up with proper nutrition, ensuring that you're eating adequate protein, that you're eating adequate carbohydrates to fuel those workouts, getting the healthy fats and the micronutrients and all that stuff so that you're fueling and nourishing your body on the cellular level. You can ensure that you're getting to bed at a decent hour and you're getting a good night's sleep. These are things within your control, right? You can control your workouts, you can control your nutrition, you can control your sleep habits and just your lifestyle in general, avoiding the negative things, smoking and drinking and drugs and all that kind of stuff, and try and live as healthy a lifestyle as you can so that you nurture your body and provide the optimal environment for it to grow and progress. But you can't actually change your body. Like, you can't build muscle or you can't lose fat directly. You can do it indirectly by nurturing the environment that causes those things to happen. But like, if I say, hey, I want you to build 5 pounds of muscle, you just can't go and there's 5 pounds of muscle. Like, you just can't squeeze it out, right? You can only nurture the process along. And to give you another analogy, I love using analogies. I always like to visualize growing a garden, whether I'm growing a vegetable garden or flower garden or whatever, like I can't force the plants out of the earth. I can't go out there and like reach my hands into the dirt and pull out a plant, right? I mean, I can't force it, but I can nurture it. Like I can tend the soil, I can plant the seeds, I can water them, I can make sure they're getting adequate sunlight. You know, I can nurture the process along, but I can't physically force it. So the same applies with your training progress. You can nurture it, but you nurture it and then you let it happen. That's it. You let it happen. And then when you find that you're seeing some progress and stuff, so like with your workouts, for example, you're nurturing the line, you're doing your workouts, you're eating consistently, you're resting and recovering and all the stuff that you're supposed to do, that's happening. When you get to the point now, the workouts are starting to feel easy. And you know what? Like you did that, what you lifted last week, and you completed those sets and reps today. And you're like, you know what? I think I can do more, right? That felt really easy. Like I completed that exercise with good form. Man, like I was struggling with it before, but now that actually felt easy. Well, then if it felt easy, increase the weight for your next workout, right? And progress gradually. And when I say increase the weight, I'm talking about like a small jump, like increase the weight by 5 pounds or strive for an extra repetition per set or something like that. But little bits of progress. But don't be in such a big hurry thinking that you have to try and force it. Because if you try and force it, like you're always trying to add 5 pounds every single week, you're going to get to the point where you physically can't do it, and that's probably going to be too much and end up injuring yourself. And this happens a lot, you know, especially with the ego exercises. Like how often you see guys in the gym always trying to bench press more, right? You know, plopping down on the bench, straining, you know, ready to burst a blood vessel there, right? Because they're straining so hard while the spotter is there deadlifting the weight off their chest, always trying for a bigger bench press. And then sure enough, what do you see? What's one of the most common injuries, right? Blown out rotator cuffs and torn pecs and everything else. And it's because people are trying too hard versus letting themselves grow, like training, providing the environment, and then just let the process happen, right? Just the same as I can't go out in the garden and force the plants out of the ground. I can only nurture it. Same with your muscle building and fat loss goals. You can't force it to happen. You can only nurture it to happen. And once you wrap your mind around that philosophy and that mindset, it takes a lot of the stress out of it, because you realize what's in your control and what's not in your control. And then you just nurture the process and let it happen and enjoy the journey. Right? I mean, this is stuff, I mean, I could make an hour long video chat just on that alone, but for the sake of everybody who's tuning in and asking questions, I'm going to keep moving on. All right. Dad physique. Second, Dad, I'm going to have a drink first. A non-alcoholic, non-sugar, just some caffeine to keep me motivated. Caffeinated and motivated. All right, Mr. Dad Physique. If I want a mass builder, I just add peanut butter and honey to my protein shake. It's cheaper than mass builders, of which you are just overpaying for sugar. Well, that is true, but just heads up here. Gaining weight through peanut butter and honey, even though it's natural, comes from peanuts, and honey comes from bees and all that, that's fat and sugar. And the combination of fat and sugar, yeah, you'll gain weight all right, but it's not the ideal weight. Right? Like I know a lot of people gain weight from fat and sugar. Cake is fat and sugar. Ice cream is fat and sugar. Potato chips are, well, mostly fat and carbs, or it could be sugar too. But junk food is fat and sugar. So even though peanut butter and honey are natural, it's like natural junk food, because from a nutritional point of view and how your body would react to it, you know, it's not the ideal combination. I'm not saying that you can never eat peanut butter or honey, but I wouldn't purposely go slamming that back for the goal of gaining calories. That's like saying, hey, I'm going to just eat a tub of ice cream every day, you know, because I want to gain weight. Yeah, you'll probably gain weight all right, but it's not the ideal weight. Focus on better macro ratios there, I would. Billy Nay Shear. Billy Nay. I guess that's how I'm saying it right. Hey, Big Lee, Savage Beast. Keep up the great work on the videos and helping people reach their fitness goals. You're a great role model for new gym goers and vets. Cheers. Well, thank you, Mr. Billy Nay. Much appreciated. Obviously, you've been following along for a while, because you're mentioning the Savage Beast, and that goes way back. That goes way back into the early 2000s, right? The story of the Savage Beast. I'm not going to go into it I've shared it in previous videos, but I'm not going to go into it today. For those of you who know about the Savage Beast, you've been following me for years. All right, moving on. Hi, Dave. Hi. Dave says hi, Lee, and I say hi, Dave. Or David, I should say. Yeah, David. Yeah, gotcha. And then we got Dad Physique. I joined the Dad Bod Transformation Group. Thanks for letting me know about it. Cool. Awesome. You're welcome. It's a fantastic group. Small James in the game can mean Hugh gains. Yeah, all right. Comments. Let's see. David. That's what happened to me. I hit a weight loss plateau. My question is, can added sugar affect weight loss? And do you need to cut out added sugar to weight loss or lose weight? I'm not sure. You must be replying to one of the questions I was talking about earlier, obviously. I know, like, you're typing your questions not in the same real time that I'm speaking, right? Obviously, it takes me longer to speak than it takes you to type. So do you have to cut out sugar to achieve weight loss or lose weight? Not indirectly. All right. Like, the truth is, it's calories in, calories out, the total calories consumed over the long term. If you consume a calorie deficit, it really doesn't matter where those calories come from. You can still technically lose weight, right? You know, I've used this analogy before in this example. Think of back in 2010 when university professor Mark Hobb went and did the whole Twinkie diet experiment, and that thing went viral, went all over the world. CNN reported on it and everything else. But it was a great eye opener to nutrition and how the body actually responds. Because a lot of people used to think, well, you can't lose weight if you're eating junk food. And Mark Hobb with the Twinkie diet experiment actually proved you could. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, you can just Google search Twinkie diet. It'll pop up, but I'll give you a quick summary here. He went on a 10-week diet of nothing but Twinkies and junk food and potato chips, like all the crap that you get in the junk food aisle at the grocery store, you know, like the cookie aisle and the cake aisle and the potato chip aisle. That's what he ate for 10 weeks. However, he was very strict with counting his calories and tracking his portions, and he limited himself to 1,800 calories a day. Now, in his case, his basal metabolic rate and his calorie intake, his calorie expenditure, was approximately 2,700 calories a day. So he was consuming about a 900 calorie a day deficit, but he was consuming all junk food. But he did that over the course of 10 weeks. And he actually lost a significant amount of weight. I mean, I can't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but it was in proportion to what someone would lose if they maintained a 900 calorie deficit for 10 weeks, right? He actually lost a significant amount of weight and proved that it's calories. It's not the food choices. So when it comes to sugar, do you need to cut out sugar to lose weight? Technically, no, but you need to cut out something in order to be in a calorie deficit. And the problem with just, you know, in the case of the Twinkie diet, in order for him to eat all that junk food, the sugar and the fat, what did he have to cut out? He had to cut out the good food. He had to cut out the protein, and he had to cut out the vegetables, and he had to cut out, you know, the high nutrient dense foods, the foods that are actually going to nourish your body. So even though he was in a calorie deficit and lost weight, I mean, it's not a healthy way to live, and it's certainly not going to optimize your health and your fitness and your fuel and nourish your body on the cellular level. It's just depleting it from calorie deprivation and causing you to lose weight from that. So we want to do the opposite, right? If you're going to make some cutbacks, how about we cut out the crap that your body doesn't need and make sure that you're eating the good stuff that your body does need. So eat the protein, eat the vegetables, eat the high nutrient dense food, eat those healthy fats, like get the good stuff that your body needs so that you're nourishing and fueling and energizing yourself, and then cut out the crap. So yeah, cut out the sugar, or at least drastically reduce it. You know, cut out the garbage junk fats, you know, or at least drastically reduce it. I'm not saying you have to be 100% strict all the time, but most of the time, right? You want to be moving in the right direction with that stuff. So hopefully that helps to answer your question, David. I mean, you don't technically have to cut it out, but you got to cut out something in order to create a calorie deficit. And you would be much better off cutting out the low-hanging fruit, right? And what I mean by that is cut out the simple stuff, the sugar. Like, prime example, right now, we have another one. This is a sugar-free energy drink. I could drink the regular one and it would have, like, I don't know, 300 or 400 calories of just empty calories, or this one, which has 0 calories. Like, that's a simple swap. I'm not even giving up the freaking energy drink. I'm still having it, but I'm just choosing a better version, having the sugar-free one. So anywhere where you can make a swap like that, like have a sugar-free version versus a regular version, do it, right? That's an easy way to cut out some extra sugar. And then even with your food choices in general, try and have some better options whenever possible. Like that's a low hanging fruit. Take that stuff first, and then we can worry about optimizing your overall eating habits later on. All right, let's move on. See what else we got there. Psycho 10. I think that's how I say it. Psycho 10. I'm barely starting TRT. Barely. Like, I don't like you're either started it or you're not. I don't know. It's like Yoda said, you do or you do not. He said there is no try, but there is no barely. You're either on it or you're not. I don't know. But you're barely starting it. Can I still make gains with just TRT? Of course you can. I mean, you can make gains without it, right? I actually made a video talking about TRT, the pros and cons, like what it is and where it applies in real world situations. Because I actually had one of my coaching students who was very open and shared his experience with it. And I made a video dedicated to it. And you can make progress totally natural. Like I absolutely. Like the only thing you need to improve your overall health and fitness and to get in shape, like you need proper nutrition, you need proper exercise and adequate rest and recovery, and you can still make progress. However, if you're getting up in years, you're in your 40s or 50s or beyond, and your natural hormone levels are starting to decline, hormone replacement therapy, or TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. Now, those terms are used interchangeably, but we want to ideally look for HRT, hormone replacement therapy, because there's a lot more hormones going on than just testosterone. You have growth hormone, you have thyroid, you have other metabolic hormones going on there that could be regulated or optimized. So if you're going to a hormone replacement therapy clinic and getting this done under doctor supervision, or there are people who know what they're doing, they can look at your blood work and see how things are and optimize all these different variables and not just the testosterone side. I mean, don't get me wrong, testosterone is a big one, but it's not the only one. So ideally you want to look for HRT, hormone replacement therapy, and not just TRT. Right. But what I'll do is in the show notes of this afterwards, I'll post a link to that video. And if you're watching this now and you want to go check it out as soon as possible, when the video chat ends, just go to YouTube and search in for Lee Hayward, TRT, HRT. Right? It should pop up there in the search, right? Or just go to my YouTube channels again, search for Lee Hayward, TRT, HRT. You should find it. But bottom line, you can make progress without it. But if you do have low hormone levels, what you'll find is that can be a limiting factor that can be hindering some of your progress. So it's not that it's going to make or break it, but it can be preventing you from getting the best results that you could be getting. So once you optimize your hormone levels, what often happens is now you get better results from the effort you're putting in because your body is functioning properly. It kind of like visualize it like you're driving your car, but it's not tuned properly. Like you're not firing out all 8 cylinders. Your tire pressure is low, right? You're down a quart of oil, right? The ball joints need greasing. Like the car still works, but it's not optimized, right? It needs some maintenance, right? It needs to be brought up to speed, if you will. Your hormone replacement therapy is kind of like that. It fills in some of the gaps because as you get older, the hormones are not functioning. They're not producing at the same level that they used to be. So by doing that, it just helps everything to work better. So you have more strength and energy. You get better recovery. The process of exercise and nutrition just works better when your hormones are better. And that's why younger people get better results than older people, because younger people naturally have optimized hormone levels. Assuming they're healthy individuals, but then as you age, your hormones naturally decline, and then eventually get to that tipping point where now it's so low that you're noticing that decline, and hormone replacement therapy can help to bring you back to a normal, healthy level again. So, you can still make gains without it or with it, right? But that's basically the process. And again, to really break this down in more detail, go check out that video that I mentioned there. Just do a search for Lee Hayward, HRT /TRT, because I put both terms in the title of the video because I know most people are going to search for one or the other. Okay, let's see what else you guys. This question: high speed drifter. All right, sounds fast. Sounds fast and furious and dangerous. I was just about to ask about the psychology of compulsive junk food eating. All right. Um, do you have a specific question about the psychology of compulsive junk food eating? I mean, I, I wish it was just like, hey, this is you, this is the problem, whatever. But it's really an individual thing. It really is. It's not like a one size fits all cookie cutter solution. You know, sometimes people eat junk food simply because they're bored. I'm serious. Like I know of a guy who his evening routine was like, after supper in the evening when he was just, in those few hours between dinner and bed, he'd sit down and he'd watch TV and he'd like to just grab a bag of chips and just watch TV and eating the chips. And that became like a regular routine. So it was a habit, but it wasn't even so much that he was craving the chips and stuff. It was just like it filled in that boredom gap. It wasn't physically hungry because he had finished dinner, but he was just doing it on a regular basis because it was filling in the need for occupying his mind and activities and filling in the boredom gap, if you will. But if we could fill in the boredom gap with other more positive habits, I mean, he was able to give up the chips quite easily. So the psychology behind it is really an individual thing. Like some people do have an addiction to junk food, and you can see this. Like there's been studies done where people can get physically addicted to sugar and junk food and everything else, just the same as you can get addicted to cigarettes or recreational drugs or whatever. It almost has that kind of a connection, right? Some people can get physically addicted to it, but then some people are doing it just out of boredom or because it's part of their environment or just the way they were raised. It's not necessarily that they're addicted to it. It's just like, I've always been doing it. I was raised doing this. Everybody else in my family is doing it. I'm going to do it too. So sometimes we need to just simply change the environment. Again, it's such a complex topic, right? Because it depends on the individual and your own situation. So that's why it's kind of hard to really blanket statement, the root cause of the problem, because it's going to vary for everybody. But again, it's mostly a mental issue more often than not. Right? I've mentioned this before in a previous question there. Whenever you're struggling with fitness and nutrition, it's rarely physical. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes it is, right? It could be just, it could literally be a physical issue. But more often than not, it's a mental issue. So there's something going on at a deeper level that needs to be addressed. What do we got there? We have TS joining in. He's in the gym now. Good for you. Thank you for sponsoring the video chat. Much appreciated. And have a good workout. What are you training? Let us know. What's on the agenda here tonight? A Friday night gym workout. I know back in the day, in my younger days, in my pre-father, pre-marriage, bachelor bodybuilder days, Friday night was a popular night at the gym. And it was always Friday night pump up. And a lot of times, you go into the gym and you train chest and biceps on Friday night. And then you get all showered and spruced up. And then the locker room would be reeking of freaking cologne and everything else. And then people would hit the nightclubs, right, from the gym to the nightclub, right? And hoping that pump was going to last while you were in the nightclub. Now, of course, it never did, but you're young and dumb and foolish and everything else. But that's what a lot of us used to do back in the day. I mean, I'm guilty as charged. I used to do it myself. So you go in Friday night, right? Chest and biceps, get the biggest kind of pump you could, and then put on the tightest, stretchiest t-shirt that you could find or whatever, and then hit the nightclubs and hoping that pump was going to last. So it was always the Friday night pump up, Friday night workout. So I don't know, TS, are you doing that at the gym now? Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Maybe you're beyond those days. I don't know. Where else we to? The good old days. Some days I wish I could go back to the Friday night pump up, but I'm in bed by then. All right, Robert's joining in. Robert's a regular to the chats. He says, how long should you stay on whatever program you get on? Would a month, 2 months, etc.? Okay, I know what you mean here. How long should you stick to a workout program, right? And this is a legitimate question, and I'm going to give you my answer. Like some people say, oh, follow a 6-week plan, a 12-week plan, a 30-day plan, or what. follow it for as long as it's working and as long as you enjoy it. If you're seeing progress and it's working and you're enjoying it, ride that wave of momentum, right? Like, let's just say you got a 6-week workout program. I don't know. You downloaded one from YouTube, and that's how it was put out there. Saying this 6-week getting your best shape ever workout program, whatever title we want to throw on it. And you're following that program and you're enjoying it and you're seeing results, and you're coming up, it's week 5 and you're still enjoying it, and you just did week 6 and you're still enjoying it. Why stop? Ride that wave of momentum. Ride it out for as long as you're enjoying the program, for as long as you're seeing gains, as long as you're making progress. And then once you start to hit a plateau, then you can change it up. And how you'll know, there's 2 key signs you want to look for with plateaus when it's time to change up a program. One is your actual physical performance. When you get to the point where not only is your progress slowing down, but you can't even duplicate what you've done previously. And it's not just you had a bad day, but it's kind of a trend, because everybody can have a bad day. Just like some days you wake up and you're like, man, I'm just tired. I'm dragging my ass out of bed. I don't feel good today. Or, you got a case of the Mondays and you walk into work on Monday morning. You're like, oh, I'm tired. I'm lazy. I don't know. I just don't feel like being here today. That's just a low energy day. And that could be caused from numerous reasons. It could be poor night's sleep. It just could be, stress, family situations, overworked, the times changed, daylight savings time ended, or whatever the heck. I mean, anything could happen to cause you to have an off day. But if you start having consistent off days, or consistent days where your strength and energy is low. So, don't just take one odd day and say, oh, I'm at a plateau, I got to change everything. No, like, ride it out and just see the trend, right? Like I mentioned earlier, it's like the stock market. There's going to be ups and downs. Where's the trend heading? Is the trend heading up, or is the trend heading down? So as long as the trend is heading up, keep doing what you're doing, right? Ride that wave of momentum for what it's worth. But once you start seeing, I'm not able to meet the numbers that I was making, and I'm struggling. So like, hey, I used to bench press 200 pounds for sets of 10. And now, man, geez, I'm struggling to get sets of 8, right? And the strength seems to be actually moving in the wrong direction. Or you just feel that you're getting bored with the program. That's the second sign. You're doing the program. You're just like, man, this is just the same shit day after day after day. I'm getting bored of this. I just want to change it up. I want some mental variety here. When you see that happening, you start to get bored and your performance starts to drop off. Change it up. And how you change it up really depends at that stage. This is where having an experienced coach in your corner can help, because sometimes you may need to change it up in terms of ramp it up another notch. Maybe we need to scale up the intensity. Sometimes we need to actually back off the intensity, right? And this is where having a coach who's following along with your progress and is monitoring your results and seeing how your body's responding can help you. Because very often, sometimes people will be pushing pedal to the metal, and like really driving hard, hitting a plateau, and then say, oh, I need a new program. And then they put out another program that's pushing them pedal to the metal, and they're pushing hard, and they're just literally digging themselves into a rut. So even though they're working hard, and from the outside eyes, like, man, you should be jacked and looking like a beast by now because you're putting in so much effort, they're actually digging themselves into a rut and causing themselves to set back further. And then other times, it's the complete opposite. Maybe you're pushing yourself so hard that you need to actually deload, back off, do an active recovery phase. Or maybe you've been pushing, but not pushing hard enough, and there's another gear, right? You need to kick it up a notch. And again, that's where having someone with more experience and who's been through the process and has seen these trends can help you to guide you in the right direction. But the simple answer is there's really no set timeline for how long to stick to a program. You follow it for as long as it's working for you. Now, I'm going to throw out another piece of information to help you with this. The more experienced you get, the faster your body is going to adapt to a set workout routine. When you're new, you can usually stick to a program longer and still make progress with it. But as you become more advanced and your body gets more in tune, it's going to adapt faster. So for example, like a beginner might be able to stick to a program for 3 or 4 months or longer and make great progress with it. Whereas an advanced person might, in half that time, gone through the adapt phase and hitting a plateau and then need to move on, right? So like every program goes through 3 phases. You adapt, you grow, you plateau. Adapt, grow, plateau. And how long it takes you to go through those phases is really an individual thing. But generally speaking, like I said, the beginners, it takes them longer, and because their body is not as in tuned and their exercise technique is not as fine-tuned, so like their efficiency. Whereas someone who's advanced, like they know how to maximize muscle efficiency and with exercise performance and execution and all that kind of stuff. So they tend to go through that process much faster, and they'll be changing programs quicker. All right. I got something stuck in my teeth. Hopefully you can't see it on camera, but I can feel it there. That's annoying me. Anyway. All right. What else we got there? Let's see. I'm just going to scroll through here real quick. Orville's joining me. I was actually chatting to Orville today. Orville's a member of our Muscle After 40 coaching program. Had a great chat with him. The 80-20 thing we were talking about earlier. Question mark. I know exactly what you're talking about because we were talking about it literally just a few hours ago. This is referred to polarized training. And it's a strategy that I use when I'm training specifically for endurance training, but you can also utilize this with strength training to a degree as well. But I'm going to speak from how I was sharing this with Orville and how I'm utilizing it myself in terms of endurance training. Now, for those of you who've been following along with me, especially on Facebook, over the past few years, but really over the last year, I've gotten serious into cycling. It's one of my that's my top fitness priority at this stage of the game is cycling. I mean, I'm still going to the gym and weight training, but it's weight training in a form of how is this going to actually help to supplement my cycling, because that's what I've been focusing on. And I actually hit a big personal best this year. I rolled over to 12,000 kilometers cycled in 2022, which is averaging over 1,000 kilometers a month. Right? I mean, that's a huge PR for me, massive one, because last year I cycled for the full year. It was 7,500 kilometers, which is still, respectable and a hell of a lot more than, most people. So I did 7,500 last year, but this year I crushed and blew that goal out of the water, and I rolled over to 12,000 kilometers cycled. And there's still, we're not even gone through November. Still got all December to go yet. So who knows? I might rack up another 1,000K or more. Because I cycle year round. Like I've got my fat bike that I put studded tires on in the wintertime so I can ride in the snow and the ice. And then, of course, in the summertime, I got my road bike and my gravel bike. So I cycle year round, and I love it. And how I go about training for cycling is I use what's known as polarized training. And basically, it just means training at both ends of the intensity spectrum, right? So like it's either really easy or really hard. Polarized, right? At opposite ends of the poles. And this is a very effective way to maximize your efficiency, because where a lot of people train is in the middle, right? It's not easy, but it's not hard, and it's in the middle. Now, don't get me wrong, you can still make progress training in the middle, right? I mean, anything is better than nothing, right? Like you can still make progress. But once you get past that initial phase, like you start to go through the adapt, grow, plateau phase of, and this applies with endurance training as well. Once you've gotten beyond that initial hump, then we need to look at some more advanced strategies on how we can maximize the efficiency and get the best bang for your buck, so to speak. And polarized training is a very popular methodology that a lot of people are using. And the way it works is about 80% of the time, you're doing relatively low intensity training. Now, I'm not saying like it's shuffle your feet walking. You're still exerting some effort, but it's sustainable effort, and it's not exhausting, meaning you're not gasping for air or feeling like you're going to pass out or anything. But it's a jog, if you will, or it's a brisk walk, or it's when it's cycling, like you're cycling at a decent pace, but you're not pushing the limits. Like you're not gasping for air and struggling, right? It's what's referred to in the endurance world as zone 2, right? Anybody who's familiar with endurance training knows zone 2. So zone 1 is the easy active recovery. You're not even, you're just blah, 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 going for a walk, just spinning your legs with no resistance. That's zone 1. A bit of effort, but sustainable long-term effort. That's zone 2, right? You're still pushing yourself, but it's not hard. And you can do that. That's your base building. That's where you want to be, zone 2. So 80% of your workout should be in that zone 2 range. And then about 20% is where you really push yourselves. That's where you're going to test your limits, try and, set some personal records or smash some, fast sprints or big climbs or whatever it is that you're training for. That's where you're going to push your high intensity, right? Is in that 20% range. And that's a good ratio to focus on. So the majority of your workouts are just building that base. And you visualize almost like if you want to build a bigger pyramid, how do you build a higher peak? You got to have a bigger base. So 80% is base building, that lower intensity, just getting in the volume, getting in those base miles there, building up your overall work capacity. And then to build the peak, then you focus on that 20% high intensity. And with those workouts, that's when you push it and actually strive to hit some new personal records, some personal bests. And it's a very efficient way of going about maximizing your physical work capacity and your output. And a lot of professional athletes, like a lot of runners and cyclists and triathletes and people in that area, are utilizing that style of training. It's becoming more and more popular, and it's very efficient. So that's something that's what we were talking about earlier today, and that's what I was going to encourage Orville to utilize to help work on some of his fitness goals that he wanted to work on over the next year. All right. So, and again, if you do have any questions about how to actually implement that, Orville, reach out to me, right? We can schedule in a future coaching call or whatever and discuss it in more detail. But that's the general overview of polarized training and using the 80-20. And another thing, I did mention this to Orville as well when we were on our coaching call today. This is a philosophy. It's not a hard set rule. So you don't have to actually graph it out on a chart and break out the calculator. Okay, did I do exactly 80% low intensity and exactly 20% high intensity? It's a philosophy. Some weeks you may do 90% low intensity and only 10% high. Other weeks you might do 30% high intensity and only 70% low. It doesn't have to be exactly 80-20. But it's the philosophy. The majority of your workouts should be low intensity base building, and then smaller percentage of the high intensity pushing it. Now, it will fluctuate based on real life and situations and your own energy reserves. If you're feeling you're planning to do a high intensity workout, but you slept like shit the night before and you're just physically exhausted, well, hey, do a low intensity one, right? Just, something's better than nothing. Get in a low intensity workout. And then vice versa. If you were planning on doing a low intensity workout, but for whatever reason, you're just full of piss and vinegar and you got energy to burn, hey, go for it, right? Give her bickies and see how you can do, right? So it's a philosophy, not this hard set stone, right? Like it's set in stone rules of what I mean, right? So most of the time is lower intensity base building, and then 20%, less, drastically less is the high intensity pushing your intensity there. All right, moving on. We have Steven. Steven also went through the Muscle After 40 blueprint as well and made an amazing transformation, and saying one of the best fitness coaches ever! Exclamation points 3 times. Ching, ching, ching. Thanks, Steve. Nice to connect with you. In fact, we should chat. Send me a message. Drop me a line. We have. It's been a while since we actually spoke, but I know he went through the whole Muscle After 40 program that we did, lost a lot of body fat, built lean muscle, and achieved a great body recomposition. I think that was like a year or two ago. So it's nice to see you jumping back on the chat there. What else we got there? I only drink 1 8-ounce protein shake per day, so it only a tablespoon of peanut butter and a tablespoon of honey. I absolutely would not completely depend on it for weight gain. Oh, he's referring to me saying that peanut butter and honey is not the ideal weight gain food. Fair enough. I mean, I'm not saying that you can't enjoy a spoonful of peanut butter or a spoonful of honey, but I'm just saying, if you're trying to purposely bump up your calories, I mean, I wouldn't go out of my way to just put fat and sugar in there for the sake of calories. I'd focus on more nutrient dense foods first. Protein and veggies, that's the foundation, right? Protein and veggies. That's my default habit. When I sit down to a meal, I would say okay, what's my serving of protein? What's my serving of veggies? That's got to go on the plate first. Then I'll fill it out with, some carbs and extra fats or whatever afterwards. But get the protein and veggies in, fill up on that food first. And that's like an 80-20 rule right there, because that's like the 20% effort that's going to give you 80% of your results. If you just did that, prioritize protein and veggies with each meal, you would actually move in the right direction towards reaching your fitness goals. All right, let's see what else we got. The Paul's joining us. I've got off red meat about 4 months now, and I eat lean turkey, chicken, and fish for my protein and feel better, less sluggish, and I digest it better. How do you digest red meat? Through my belly. um, that makes a lot of sense. Right? I know I'm just being sarcastic there, but to legitimately answer your question, of the different protein sources, like the animal-based proteins, red meat does generally take longer to digest. It takes longer for the body to break it down, digest it, and utilize it, and convert it into readily usable amino acids. It's chicken, fish, things like that. They still take a while to break down, but it takes less time and less effort. So what you're experiencing, what you're saying there makes a lot of sense. And I've known a lot of people personally who feel the same way. And I'm the same way as well. Like if I eat steak or beef or something like that, it sits in my stomach longer. Like it takes longer to digest. So in my situation, where I typically do my workouts earlier in the day, I don't usually do nighttime workouts anymore. So I usually do, morning or afternoon or somewhere around there. So for all my early meals, I try to choose protein sources that I know are going to be easier to digest and absorb and not sit in my stomach and make me feel sluggish. So like for breakfast, very often, like I might have like a high protein oatmeal, which is literally just a bowl of oatmeal with a scoop of protein powder thrown in. And that is very easy to digest. Like protein powder, very easy to digest. Doesn't sit hard on your stomach. Egg whites, very easy to digest. Chicken, I mean, it's not as easy as protein powder and egg whites, but it's still relatively easy to digest. Fish, the same way. Like these are foods that your body can break down and digest and utilize, and it's not going to sit in your stomach for hours. So I tend to choose similar types of foods myself for my earlier meals. If I am going to have red meat, it's very often for my evening meal, because I know it's going to take longer to digest. I'm not going to feel like working out after I've had a meal of meat, right? Like red meat, beef, or something along those lines. Like another one that I've been eating a lot of lately is bison, right? I enjoy that as well. That's I like the flavor of it, but it's a really lean red meat. But again, if for some reason, again, I'm not a scientist here to break down the chemical composition of beef versus chicken or whatever, but for some reason, beef and red meat in general tends to sit in the stomach longer, and it takes longer for it to break down and digest. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still a great source of protein, and there's a lot of nutrition in it. I mean, it's high in B vitamins, it's high in iron. I mean, it's a very nutrient-dense source of food, but it takes longer to digest. So I would not pre-workout meal, steak and potatoes, because it's just going to be just too much. But I would have pre-workout meal of high protein oatmeal or something like that, and then work out like an hour or two later, right? The meat would just sit in the stomach longer and take longer to digest. So in my case, and for a lot of my coaching students, when you're looking at your sample eating plans that I send you, you'll notice there's no red meat early in the day. We always save it for the evening meal, right? And that's that's the reason why. All right. But again, thanks for bringing that up. Great point. Okay. I think that concludes. If I'm checking here on my end, I think that's all the questions and comments that came through on my end. So with that being said, I'm going to get ready and clue it up. Holy smokes. We've been going for over an hour and 17 minutes. Hour and 18 just rolled over. I got the gift of gab sometimes. I guess this energy drink's working. Because quite honestly, when I started this, I was turning like an hour and 18 minutes ago. I was like, oh man, I'm dragging my ass today because I was busy. I did a lot of coaching calls. I had a lot of emails and work and stuff like that. And I don't feel like doing this today, but I did it and I actually enjoy it. Like once I get in the groove and get the momentum and the gears grinding, I actually do enjoy these video chats, and hopefully you enjoyed it as well. And if you did, smash the thumbs up button or give it a like or a heart or a whatever it is that you're on. If you're on YouTube, it's a like. If you're on Facebook, you can even give it a heart. But if you do appreciate it, please share some positive feedback there. And what I will do is I will get the replay of this posted up with the timestamps and the show notes. So like all the questions that I discussed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get them organized with the timestamps, and I'll have that posted up there afterwards. And if you want to check out our past video chats, you can head on over to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel and click on up in the top tab there. There's a menu option for live videos. All our past live video chats are there, and they're all categorized by timestamps. So if you want to go back and review any of them, you can certainly do so. And also, just a quick heads up, tonight is the deadline now for our Black Friday Muscle After 40 promo. So if you are interested in coming on board with the Muscle After 40 Blueprint Body Recomposition Program and becoming one of our before and after success stories in 2023, and you want to take advantage of our Black Friday discount, which you can literally save 50% off the program. So how it works is we're going to double whatever your program package is, right? So if you the regular, like if you signed up for a month, you get 2 months. If you signed up for 6 months, you get 12 months. So we're going to basically double the program. So it's like literally a 50% savings there. And if you want to take advantage of that, it's for this weekend only, right? That's what it is. So reach out to me, let me know, and just send me an email. Literally just lee@leehayward.com. My email is in the description. Send that over or message me through Facebook, and I'll send you the details. And we can chat and see if you're a good fit to come on board with the Muscle After 40 Blueprint. And if you can become one of our before and after success stories in 2023. And I would love to do that. I mean, that's my vision behind this. Like, I'm just not taking on another coaching student for the sake of another student. Like, I'm doing this to create those before and after success stories, right? Like, I want you to become one of those success stories so that not only are you getting the results, you're feeling good about yourself and feeling confident in your own skin and helping to inspire your friends and family and everybody in your social circle. But then in turn, we can then share your story with others and help to inspire other guys who are going through similar challenges as well, and just create this win-win situation all around. And that's what it's about, right? It's not just about, like some people in different industries have a churn and burn mentality where they just like, I don't care. I just want to churn and burn. I want to just get customers in and I don't care what happens to them after they come in. Whereas I want to have this nurturing relationship where it's a friendship and a mentorship, and you become one of those before and after success stories. I mean, that's why I do these video chats. That's why I always try to keep that open flow of communication. And you'll see, like, as you come on board with the Muscle After 40 Blueprint, we're doing this all week long, right? Like this stuff, this kind of interaction and communication is happening all week long, along with one-on-one coaching calls and strategy sessions, stuff where we can really take this stuff and do a deep dive to help you reach your fitness goals, and not just reach them, but then develop a sustainable system so that you can maintain it as a lifestyle. And that's what it's all about, because anybody can muster up willpower in the short term and suffer through a diet, and probably drop a few pounds or make some changes in the short term. But then what happens after that initial willpower wears off, and then real life hits, and the challenges come about, and like you get it's like you're past the piss and vinegar motivation phase, and now you're into the day-to-day grind. Like, can you endure the day-to-day grind and still enjoy the process? Because that's what's going to determine the success or failure long-term, right? Like, just think, we're approaching the whole New Year's resolution time very soon. It'll be here before you know it. And there'll be so many people who are full of piss and vinegar and saying, that's it, I'm joining the gym. I feel like a fat slob over the holidays and everything else, gained too much weight. And now I'm going to join the gym. I'm going to work out like a madman. I'm going on a freaking diet. That's it. I'm going to lose this weight and get in shape. And that might last for a week or two, or maybe a month. And then before you know it, the motivation, the sizzle wore off. And then they're like, no, this is work. Screw that. And then they go back to their old habits. And before you know it, fatter than ever. Whatever weight they probably lost in that first month, they'll regain it along with a few pounds more. And then they're fatter than ever. And that's the cycle. That's the yo-yo diet cycle, right? Up and down, up and down. And this is what happens to over 90% of people who go on any type of fat loss program. So I'm trying to get you to break out of that rut. And instead of thinking of a diet, we want to reprogram those default habits so that you're actually making better food and fitness and nutrition choices overall in terms of your lifestyle without even feeling like you're on a diet to begin with. And that's what we cover within the whole Muscle After 40 Blueprint program. So if that's something you're interested in, reach out, let me know, and we'll see if you're a good fit to come on board. And with that being said, I'm going to clue this up and get ready to have a nice evening meal and then hit the sack and go to bed. All right, guys, take care. Have yourself a good one. And I'll talk to you same time next week. Over and out. And the broadcast.